All right, everybody. The NFL free agency period is fully and officially underway. We're almost a week in. And, with that being the case, the Browns have already made not necessarily a ton of moves, but they have made a nice handful of moves as the free agency period has gotten underway here in the NFL offseason. And, although we're still awaiting some moves from the Browns front office in this free agency period, I wanted to go ahead and with the moves that they have made in free agency so far, I want to go ahead and just grade the moves that they have made in free agency so far, everybody. And to start that off, let's go ahead and grade the move of re-signing Zadarius Smith to a 2-year, $23 million deal. He'll be getting about $11.5 to $12 million a year. I'm going to give this move an A+, everybody. I love the idea of bringing Zadarius Smith back, everybody. We saw what happened last year on the Browns defensive line, had the absolute best defensive line in the NFL. We all know Zadarius Smith was a big part of that. So this is the Browns just going back to what worked really well for them, and they're doing it for a really good price. I think $11.5, $12 million a year. That's a really good price to bring back a guy, Zadarius Smith, that you really liked how he was able to pressure the quarterback and stop the run last year. Now, obviously, with all of that being said, we all know that Zadarius Smith was not a guy who overhauled numbers in the sack department last year. He only had 5.5 sacks, but although he did leave some stuff to be desired on the table in the sack department, once again, as we say all the time, sacks do not tell the whole story of an edge rusher. And I think that's really important to note here for Zadarius Smith, because if you watch the film and you look at other stats like pass rush win rate, and the fact that he had over 60 pressures last year, you would know that even if he didn't have a lot of sacks, Zadarius Smith was still a really productive pass rusher last year. Yeah, maybe you wanted more out of him in the sack department, but he was still productive, and so productive that he helped be a key part in really the Browns being the best defensive line and pass rush in the NFL last year. Anytime you have a chance to bring a guy back that helped you be the best defensive line in the NFL, you do what you can to bring that guy back, especially if you can do it at a good price, which is what the Browns did here by bringing back Zadarius Smith for only $11.5 to $12 million a year. And yeah, like I said, sacks were left on the table last year when it came to Zadarius Smith. And obviously, the sack department is something you want to see increase this year as the Browns re-signed him and really want to up the ante in the sack department. I think when you're looking at Zadarius Smith also, you're looking at a guy who literally came off of a 10-plus sack season the year before last year, before he got traded to the Browns when he was with the Vikings. He had a 10-sack season. So when you look at that, you look at his pass rush rim rate and pressure from last year also, combined with the continuity aspect, there is optimism and reason to feel that he still has 9 to 10-plus sack numbers in him because of what we saw him do the year before he came to the Browns, knowing what he did with the Browns, and now knowing that, he's got continuity to build off of what he did last year. So considering the production last year and everything else I just named, and knowing what we paid to Zadarius Smith, I really, really love this deal for the Browns. This deal gets an A+ for me. Next up, let's talk about some more guys that got re-signed. We got Maurice Hurst, who signed a 1-year, $3 million deal with this team. And then we also have Shelby Harris, who signed a 2-year, $9 million deal with this team. He'll be getting paid $4.5 million a year throughout the next 2 years. For both of those deals, I'm going to head in the direction of giving both of these deals an A grade for the Browns here. Like I said for Zadarius Smith, go back to what worked. Like I said, the Browns had one of the best defensive lines in the league last year. In my opinion, it was the best. Maurice Hurst, before he got hurt, was certainly a part of that. Shelby Harris, all throughout the season, was certainly a big part of it. Both guys are great run defenders, dudes that can absolutely fill gaps and wreak havoc in the run game. And they're also, while they're not like really, really good as pass rushers, they're still really solid and good pass rushers. Now, we have another guy that the Browns just signed that is going to be mainly the pass rushing DT2 next to Dalvin Tomlinson. But if you need Harris or Hurst to rush the quarterback, they can do it at a solid level. And we saw that from them last year. So, like I said, go back to what worked. You're doing this with Maurice Hurst and Shelby Harris. I liked both of these guys last year. Why not bring them back again this year to give it another go? So I love that move from the Browns of bringing back Maurice Hurst on a 1-year, $3 million deal. and then also bringing back Shelby Harris on a 2-year, $9 million deal. If I'm actually being totally honest, given what we saw from Maurice Hurst last year, I think he's absolutely a guy that if you give him a full season, he could absolutely look even more explosive than he did last year, to the point where you're like, okay, Maurice Hurst might need to be the full-time starter. He might not need to be just a rotational piece. He may need to be just a starter. Just seeing how disruptive he was last year, whether that was from a pass rushing standpoint or a run defending standpoint, loved Maurice Hurst. And given that he's still at an age where you could still see some more increases in play from him, I'm really excited what we can see from Maurice Hurst. And I think he's a prime candidate to take a nice jump this year after what we saw from him last year. And I think having him on a 1-year, $3 million deal is a nice way to really bring that in and, just harvest that potential that he has. With that being said, let's go ahead and talk about another rotational defensive line piece or defensive tackle piece that the Browns brought in, and that's Quinton Jefferson. They signed Quinton Jefferson to what is projected to be a 1-year, $3 to $4 million deal. I'm giving this move by the Browns a B+. I really liked the Quinton Jefferson move when it came out. He's going to be a guy that's replacing Jordan Elliott because Elliott signed with the 49ers. And you know what? I actually like Jefferson, especially more as a pass rusher than I do Jordan Elliott. And that's because of Jefferson's pass rushing ability. Last year with the Jets, Quinton Jefferson had 6 sacks, which is nice for a defensive tackle. 34 tackles, 1 forced fumble recovery, 29 pressures, 16 QB hurries, and a 73.2 PFF grade. And when we also look at pressure rate, he had a higher pressure rate than Shelby Harris, than Maurice Hurst. He also had a higher pressure rate than Christian Wilkins, who was a guy that got paid a lot of money this offseason and was a defensive tackle that a lot of Browns fans wanted. Quinton Jefferson gets pressure at a more efficient rate than a guy like Christian Wilkins. So when you're talking about from a pass rushing standpoint, you're bringing in a guy in Quinton Jefferson that you did not have last year on a defensive line that was really good. So at that defensive tackle 2 position next to Dalvin Tomlinson, you are raising your ceiling as a pass rushing unit on that defensive line by adding Quinton Jefferson. And I think he, elevates your ceiling as a good pass rushing team, having him in there instead of Jordan Elliott. With that being said, though, I think it's important to note that Quinton Jefferson is not a great run defender. If he was a great run defender, he'd be getting paid far more money. But, he's not a great run defender at all. And that's why it's not really an A or an A- move for me because, Quinton Jefferson still has flaws, but he's just that good as a pass rusher that if you want a good pass rushing defensive tackle, he's the guy you want to go look at for a good price. Now, given the fact that Quinton Jefferson is not necessarily a great run defender, I think that puts one thing into perspective for me. That makes me want to discuss one really important thing for the Browns. I think the Browns are going in a direction with their moves this offseason where next to Dalvin Tomlinson, they want to have rotational and situational defensive tackles. And, I'm not opposed to this blueprint at all because it literally worked last year. We saw what they did at defensive tackle 2 next to Dalvin Tomlinson by rotating Shelby Harris, Jordan Elliott, and Maurice Hurst. Obviously, seeing how well those 3 played last year and seeing how good the interior and the whole defensive line played last year, obviously it worked. So I'm not opposed to them doing it again this year. And I think it has the potential to be even better this year because, like I said before, in pass rushing situations, Quinton Jefferson raises your pass rushing ceiling more than Jordan Elliott did. So given the fact that Quinton Jefferson is a guy who is a really good pass rusher at the defensive tackle position, he's going to be the guy that mainly comes in on obvious passing situations and third downs and everything like that. But knowing he's not a good run defender and you have guys in Shelby Harris and Maurice Hurst that are good run defenders, they're going to come in on the run defending downs or in obvious run situations. And you're not even just limited to having those guys in obvious run situations because Maurice Hurst and Shelby Harris are still solid pass rushers. So although they're not ceiling raisers at pass rusher like other guys are on this defensive line, they're still good and you can still feel comfortable having them out there. So you have versatility with those two, but you're going to see those two mainly on rundowns just because Quentin Jefferson is so good when it comes to pass rushing that you really want to use him in those areas. Now, I could be wrong because Shelby Harris was a nice pass rusher last year. Maurice Hurst was a nice pass rusher last year. So they could still use those guys a lot in pass rushing situations. And I think they will go in that direction. But I think you will definitely see them use Quentin Jefferson in more obvious pass situations because he's such a good pass rusher. I think also something I want to note is, this offseason, a lot of fans wanted the Browns to bring in $20 million a year guys like Christian Wilkins, or maybe bring in a guy like DJ Reader, where you have to spend, maybe 17 to $25 million a year on a defensive tackle that can run, defend, and pass rush well. Well, the Browns can still run, defend, and pass rush well without having a star defensive tackle because they have three guys, two of which can run, defend well, and one guy in Quentin Jefferson who can pass rush well, and still having two other guys in Hurst and Harris who can still be solid pass rushers. So the Browns are spending at defensive tackle too with three players in all. They're only spending $9 to $10 million per year in all, compared to where if they got a top tier defensive tackle like Christian Wilkins, they'd be spending $20 million to run, defend, and pass rush well, when they could just do that by having a rotation like they do now with Jefferson, Hurst, and Harris. So the Browns are not only executing the plan of still maintaining good run defending and pass rushing defensive tackles, but they do it for cheap instead of going out to get a big time defensive tackle. Now, there's a chance they could still get a big time defensive tackle via trade, like DeForest Buckner or like Jonathan Allen. But if they don't, I'm okay because I like the rotation that they have. It's also worthy to note that even with having three rotational defensive tackles, they're not limited to just using those guys in every certain situation because remember, you still have Okoronkwo, you still have Alex Wright. So you could have three edges on the field at once playing one inside because you can either play Myles or Zadarius inside and then also have Dalvin Tomlinson on the field at the same time. So you can still have packages where you're extremely flexible and you may not even have to use either Quentin Jefferson, Shelby Harris, or Maurice Hurst because you have Okoronkwo, Myles Garrett, Tomlinson, and Zadarius Smith that you can put on the field at the same time. And I even forgot to name Alex Wright. So I think another necessity that the Browns have is, flexibility and depth on the defensive line. And that's why they're going to continue to be really good. Moving on, though, let's go ahead and talk about the acquisition of Jordan Hicks to this team on a 2-year, $8 million deal. I'm going to give this move by Andrew Berry and the Browns an A-, everybody. Look, he's going to be Anthony Walker's replacement. I love this as an Anthony Walker replacement. Not only does he bring you what Anthony Walker brings you in the run game and really getting plays done at the line of scrimmage, wreaking havoc as a pass rusher and a run defender, but Jordan Hicks provides you more than Anthony Walker could in the pass game. He had an over 70 PFF grade in pass coverage, also had an over 70 PFF grade in run defense. So you're looking for AWalk's replacement. Not only are you getting the guy that can do what AWalk can do, but you're getting the guy who can do more than AWalk could do in pass coverage. So to be honest, I think this is actually an upgrade from Anthony Walker. You're getting another veteran like you had in Anthony Walker. So Jordan Hicks has championship experience, is 31 years old. He's seen a lot and done a lot in this league. So the leadership is there. Veteran leadership and experience is there. Like I said, he could do everything Anthony Walker can, plus more. Perfect replacement. And he's played with Jim Schwartz before, won a Super Bowl with Jim Schwartz in Philadelphia. So I think this is a great move for the Browns. Great acquisition by Andrew Berry. When it comes to some other moves I want to talk about, though, I'll be very short and brief on these. The Browns signed Devin Bush to a 1-year deal. I like that deal for them. I'm going to give that move a B. Now, if they plan on having Devin Bush as a starter, then this is more of a C move for me. But if Devin Bush is a guy you have as a rotational piece, and if he shows flashes for you, then you insert him into the starting lineup, or you just have him come in certain situations as a linebacker, then I like this deal for them. Now, he's shown flashes as a pass coverage linebacker. That's why a lot of people like him. He's also good at attacking the ball, but he has been inconsistent in just about every area as a linebacker. Now, I do like this move because, he has potential. He was a top 10 pick. He showed flashes with the Steelers. He showed some flashes last year with the Seahawks. And I have faith that with Jim Schwartz, I have faith that, Devin Bush can be fixed and get back to a guy that we look at as, a young player who not only has a lot of potential, but is consistently executing based off of his potential. So I have faith that Jim Schwartz could potentially fix him, but I like Devin Bush more as a depth piece this season just because he's been so inconsistent. And, I'm not really comfortable having him as Sione Takitaki's replacement. So I would like to see if the Browns go and get another linebacker that can really, make plays at the ball, but also can provide you good enough attributes as a pass coverage linebacker. And then last but not least, the Browns bring back Rodney McLeod. I'm going to give this move an A. I think it's a good move for them. Before he got hurt last year, Rodney McLeod was incredible in stepping in when he needed to for either Grant Delpit or Juwan Thornhill. He's a great veteran to have in the locker room. I really know he was a great leader last year. He's been a great leader throughout his career. He has a chance to do it again in Cleveland on a one-year deal. So good coverage guy, good when it comes to making plays at the ball. He's a veteran. Hopefully he doesn't slow down after he had his season-ending injury last year, but I have faith that he can still be a good depth piece at safety, especially knowing you have younger guys at safety like Ronnie Hickman to still come up and make some plays if you're not all that impressed with Rodney McLeod's plays. So I'm going to give that signing for the Browns an A. Like I said, really like Rodney McLeod's veteran presence, and I like what he showed us behind Grant Delpit and Juwan Thornhill last season when he had to step up. Last thing I wanted to say before I really move out here and really close out this video is, a lot of people are kind of disappointed right now because the Browns aren't making a ton of splash moves on the defensive side of the ball. And, would it be nice to see some splash moves made at positions like defensive tackle or linebacker? Yeah, it would be nice, but I think the Browns are in a mindset right now where, they're not really looking to make those splash moves because they believe in their roster. They saw their roster last year with half of their roster and half of their talent injured still go to the playoffs. So they believe that if you bring back the same blueprint, I think they feel that it'll succeed knowing that, you succeeded with half of the blueprint last year. So if you even get half of that back, which you will be getting this year, you can feel even more better about your team than you did last year when you only had half of your blueprint on the roster. Other than that, though, everybody, tell me your grades for each of these deals or some of these deals down in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Other than that, this has been Malik Hicks, aka the Ranker of Dogs by the Sword, signing off. Peace out, and I'll see you on the other side. Peace.